The story of Job, a test of faith beyond limits. Job's story is one of the most profound tests of faith in all of Scripture. He was a man who lived with everything anyone could desire: wealth, family, and health. Yet, Job faced unimaginable suffering that would test the very core of his belief. What do you do when everything you hold dear is suddenly taken from you? How would you react if you lost everything: your wealth, your loved ones, and even your health? Would you still trust in God? These are the questions we will explore today as we dive into the story of Job. His journey challenges us to reflect on our own faith, perseverance, and the nature of divine purpose. Job's blessed life. Job lived in the land of Uz, and he was widely regarded as a man of integrity, a model of virtue in his community. His life was blessed with abundant wealth, symbolized by vast herds of cattle and countless servants. He had a large family, 7 sons and 3 daughters who were his pride and joy. Job's devotion to God was unwavering, and he would regularly offer sacrifices on behalf of his family, ensuring that they remained in God's favor. He was the kind of man whose prosperity was not just material, but deeply spiritual, living as an example of righteousness to everyone around him. He had it all, and his life was a reflection of the blessings that come from living in alignment with divine principles. The heavenly debate. However, Job's faith did not go unnoticed by the heavens. One day, Satan appeared before God and challenged Job's faithfulness. He argued that Job only remained righteous because of the blessings he enjoyed. "Take away his wealth, his family, his health, and he will surely curse you," Satan claimed. But God, trusting in Job's integrity, accepted the challenge, placing limits on the trial. Job's life was not to be touched. This conversation sets the stage for the series of trials that would come to test Job's faith in ways he never imagined. The stage was set for Job's journey to be one of unparalleled suffering and spiritual transformation. The first trials begin. In a series of devastating events, Job lost everything. His wealth was stripped away when his livestock were stolen and his servants killed. Then, a sudden storm destroyed his home, killing all of his children. Job's response was not one of anger or rebellion, but of mourning. He tore his clothes and fell to the ground, saying, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." Despite the crushing loss, Job did not curse God. He remained steadfast in his faith, still recognizing the sovereignty of the Lord. His response was a testament to the depth of his trust in God, even in the face of unimaginable tragedy. Job's physical suffering. The suffering did not end with the loss of his wealth and family. Satan's next attack was on Job's body. He was struck with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. His health deteriorated rapidly, and Job found himself sitting in a pile of ashes, scraping his sores with a piece of broken pottery. His suffering was both physical and emotional. His body was racked with pain, and his spirit was weighed down with grief. Yet, even in this state of torment, Job did not curse God. He expressed his despair, questioning why he was even born, but he never turned against the one who had allowed his suffering. Job's faith was being tested in the most profound way, as his pain became a symbol of the battle between faith and doubt. The arrival of Job's friends. During this time of intense suffering, 3 of Job's friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, came to visit him. When they first saw Job from a distance, they hardly recognized him due to his disfigured state. They sat with him in silence for 7 days and nights, grieving with him without uttering a word. Their presence was a comforting reminder that Job was not alone in his suffering. However, when they began to speak, their words did not bring comfort. They questioned Job's actions, suggesting that his suffering was a result of hidden sin. They argued that the righteous do not suffer in such a manner, and that Job must have done something to deserve his fate. Their words, instead of offering solace, added to Job's burden, forcing him to defend his innocence. The friends' accusations. As the conversations continued, the accusations from Job's friends became more pointed. Eliphaz was the first to suggest that Job's suffering was a consequence of his own sin. He spoke about visions and dreams he had, interpreting them as evidence that Job was hiding some wrongdoing. Bildad followed with his own assertions, claiming that the justice of God was never flawed and that Job must have done something wrong to deserve such punishment. Zophar added his voice, declaring that Job's punishment was even less than he deserved. Job, frustrated and in agony, vehemently denied these accusations. He knew in his heart that his suffering was not the result of hidden sin. He pleaded for understanding, but the words of his friends only deepened his sense of isolation. Job questions God. In the midst of his suffering, Job turned his cries toward God. He questioned why he was even born, asking, "Why did I not perish at birth?" He lamented his existence, feeling that he had been abandoned by the very God he had devoted his life to. Job's heart was heavy with doubt and confusion. He struggled to reconcile the idea of a just God with the suffering he was experiencing. He longed for an answer, a reason for his pain. Job was not afraid to question the divine wisdom behind his suffering. His faith was still intact, but his understanding was clouded by the depth of his pain. Job's questions reflected the very human struggle of trying to make sense of suffering and divine justice. God's response to Job. Finally, after Job's desperate pleas for an explanation, God responded. But God did not offer the answers Job was expecting. Instead, God spoke to Job out of a whirlwind, challenging him with a series of questions. "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation?" God asked, revealing the vastness of divine wisdom and the limits of human understanding. Job was reminded of his smallness in the face of God's infinite knowledge. The questions God posed were not meant to condemn, but to humble Job. In this moment, Job realized that the mysteries of God's plan were far beyond his comprehension. He did not need to understand everything. He simply needed to trust in God's wisdom. Job's humility and acceptance. In response to God's revelation, Job humbled himself. He acknowledged that he had spoken out of turn and confessed that he had no right to question the Creator. "I know that you can do all things. No purpose of yours can be thwarted," Job said, recognizing the greatness of God's power. His understanding of God deepened, and he accepted that his suffering, though painful, was part of a larger divine purpose that he could not fully comprehend. This moment marked a turning point in Job's spiritual journey. His faith, tested and refined through his trials, became stronger. Job had come to understand that his relationship with God was not contingent on his material blessings, but on his trust in God's sovereignty. The restoration of Job. After Job's confession and his return to humility, God restored his fortunes. He blessed Job with even greater wealth than he had before, giving him twice as much livestock as he had originally owned. Job was also given a new family, 7 sons and 3 daughters. His daughters were known for their beauty and wisdom, and Job's life was once again filled with blessings. But more importantly, Job's spiritual transformation was complete. His faith had grown deeper through his suffering, and he understood that true blessing comes not just from material wealth, but from a relationship with God. Job's story became a testimony to the power of faith and perseverance. Lessons from Job's story. Job's story offers powerful lessons for us today. It teaches us that faith is not a fair-weather virtue. It is tested in the most difficult of circumstances. Job's perseverance in the face of unimaginable loss and suffering challenges us to examine our own faith. Can we trust in God even when life seems unfair? Job's story reminds us that suffering does not have to lead to despair. Instead, it can lead to a deeper understanding of God's wisdom and a stronger relationship with Him. The key takeaway is that God's plans are greater than our understanding, and even in our darkest moments, we can trust that there is a divine purpose at work. Call to action. As we reflect on the powerful story of Job, we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. What lessons have you learned from Job's journey? How do you respond to suffering in your own life? We would love to hear your reflections. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more biblical lessons and reflections. Thank you for watching, and may your faith be strengthened as you continue your own journey of trust and perseverance.